Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we discuss the astrological energies of June 3rd to June 10th. Where over this next week, we actually have fewer transiting aspects in the mix. Only 3, in fact, and they're focused on 2 areas of your chart that are not related to Gemini season. So even though the sun is in Gemini and we are moving through the energies of this first air sign, this is a week that's actually focused more on spiritual discernment, cognitive dissonance, and greater emotional awareness to expand your intuitive senses. So we'll get into that shortly. I'm also going to do something I never do, and I'm going to address some gossip. Yes, in true Gemini season fashion, I'm going to set the record straight here about some really ridiculous things that are circulating. So I'll be sharing that in today's show. But first, I also wanted to address some programming notes from last week. I am sorry to those of you who listen on Spotify and Apple that I uploaded the wrong episode last Wednesday. I corrected it on Thursday, so that was my error, and I so appreciate those of you who tell me right away because then I want to rush to fix it. So that was my error. Sorry about that. And then also I've heard from a few of you how the Apple Podcast volume level is low, and we have looked into it on our end, and it's something that's related to the Apple Podcast platform that we can't fix. So something about how the audio file transfers onto Apple is where the issue lies. So I'm sorry, that is not something I can do on my end, but if it is too low for you, if the volume isn't working for you, then you may want to listen on a different platform such as Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, or anywhere else that the podcast is distributed. But again, thank you for letting me know. We looked into it on our end and we were stumped in terms of the troubleshooting and what we could take care of. So now that we are in June, we have Mercury in Cancer as of June 1st, and Mercury is going to remain in Cancer until August 9th because of the upcoming Mercury retrograde that begins the end of this month, the end of June. So you're going to have an extended journey of Mercury in Cancer in the Cancer house or houses in your chart, as the Mercury retrograde will begin at 26 degrees of Cancer and journey back to 16 degrees of Cancer. Now, I'm sharing this with you now because it's a good heads up to see how this retrograde will work for you. But it's also important because this is territory that aligns with the Jupiter retrograde that occurred in Cancer starting last November, the middle of November, until early March. Jupiter was retrograde from 25 degrees of Cancer back to 15 degrees of Cancer. And since the Mercury retrograde is going to cover that same territory, we are already in the areas of our lives that we're emotionally reviewing and trusting at a deeper level of our being. So the Cancer areas of your chart are quite prominent right now. Even though we're in Gemini season, there's a lot of energy here that is meant to support your emotional intelligence, your true feelings, connecting with more of what's in your heart, guiding you to deeper levels of personal emotional awareness, also stirring up more of your untapped intuition and unconscious talents that maybe you've been learning to grow, blossom, and develop. That's because the Cancer energy is where new growth can happen when you energize it, when you give it that tender, loving care, that love and nurturing energy. That's where things grow with greater ease, greater joy and peace. So there's going to be messages happening right now that are important for you to stay mindful of, to really pay attention to what is piquing your energy, what's grabbing your emotional attention. And that is how this Mercury in Cancer operates. It brings your mental process into your feelings and emotions, into greater empathy. This can feel more sensitive, more vulnerable, more open. There could be things you're contemplating that you want to express or say or just understand that might be brand new. And the reason why it could feel brand new is because of how this Jupiter in Cancer has been moving through the same area of your chart, opening you up and expanding you through your emotional body into more of what you need and what feels good. So Jupiter has been requiring the growth, and now this Mercury in Cancer is coming through and wanting you to really be clear and discerning around what aligns with your personal needs, your sense of safety, your gut feelings that you could easily override through mental processing. This is where Mercury in Cancer is learning to trust the voice in the heart of your voice and the voice in your heart. And what might be a brand new expression that you're learning to be more courageous with, which is one of the themes of Mercury in Cancer, where you're able to take any vulnerabilities and allow it to be something authentic, true, and beautiful to share. So that is an overarching theme here now that Mercury is in Cancer. And Mercury is going to have an interesting journey here over the next week, because Mercury in Cancer is going to square Neptune in Aries at 4 degrees on June 3rd, and then on June 9th, Mercury in Cancer squares Saturn in Aries at 12 degrees. So this means Mercury is an important messenger right now that is giving you more insights into what you need, what you want, what you feel. And it's squaring the two planets in Aries, which are focusing on the new chapter to begin, new areas of self-discovery and personal sovereignty. Both Neptune in Aries and Saturn in Aries is where we've had to strengthen our self-concept to be clearer in who you are now, to trust yourself in a new way, to start a new chapter, to be a new version of yourself, to trust where you're called before you have any evidence or proof. And so during this next week, here comes Mercury in Cancer, first squaring that Neptune in Aries, and it's asking you, are you hearing your own inner voice? This is a softening influence with Mercury in Cancer. This is where you have to be more receptive to what is flowing through you, what those intuitive messages may be. And this is where we're learning to be more receptive in the feminine energies of trusting what aligns and what feels correct. Now, when the energy squares Neptune in Aries again at 4 degrees, you could feel that the emotional messages challenge your logic, challenge your typical mental processing system, and that there's something unfolding, perhaps beneath the surface or behind the veil, that you can't fully see, but you sense it and you're aware of it. But this Neptune in Aries, it blurs the boundaries and it distorts things. And so you could feel like, is this a mirage? Is this real? What's going on? Mercury in Cancer is also going to bring up old fears, old patterns, projections, emotional confusion, things that can cloud your judgment. And so this is a time to ask yourself, what does your heart know that your mind cannot yet explain? Are you giving energy to your intuition and the future trajectory you're on? Or are you invested in the past and previous experiences that are actually no longer connected to your energy field? What emotional stories need to dissolve so higher guidance can emerge? Yes, these are each big questions, but there's something significant here that if you align your consciousness with these higher perspective questions, you're going to start to feel and sense what is reforming within you. Because I'm seeing this Mercury in Cancer as being connected to the heart, empathy, self-compassion, self-love. And you might feel that there is something moving within you that feels quite subtle at first, but you know it's real. even though you don't know why or what's going on. I'm seeing this as an emergence in the heart chakra that's meant to grow. And it's meant to grow because it's a part of the new earth energies that we're moving into that are higher love based. And so it diffuses the past or where you've been or what you've been through. It allows you to set that down, move away from that, and allow the future and the new starts that Neptune and Aries is bringing forward to be a stronger presence within your energy field. So again, this is exact on June 3rd at 8:18 p.m. Eastern Time. And the other thing this speaks to is that Neptune is now at 4 degrees of Aries. And this is the most important degree point of the year because in July, we're going to have the 4 outer planets all aligning at 4 degrees. So Neptune has arrived at 4 degrees of Aries, signaling that this presence of Neptune and Aries is showing you what needs to be dissolved and removed in your mental space, in your fear body, in any of your lower emotions that would prevent any blossoming, creative, expansive new starts that July is going to usher in. And so there could be a sense of you're clearing out some things here that have been lingering, almost like that debris that you get used to, and then you realize, I don't need this, I don't want this anymore. And so there could be some things coming up over this next week that's requiring you to trust what it's time to let go of, especially anything from a previous timeline, a previous experience, a disappointment, a hurt, an unhappy memory. You might feel that you just want to offer that to this Neptune and Aries to dissolve it for you. This is also the energy of your higher self. And I also feel that there's very strong transmutation energy with this Neptune and Aries that's guiding you into more of who you came here to be, which means you leave behind anything connected to previous definitions of self and old expiring self-identities. So this occurs June 3rd, which is today, the day I'm recording this. And then about a week later on June 9th, Mercury in Cancer then squares Saturn in Aries at 12 degrees. Now keep in mind that as this Mercury in Cancer is moving forward, he's not in his retrograde territory yet. That starts when he gets to 16 degrees of Cancer on June 13th. So he's doing this work now before the retrograde begins, and it could feel like you're getting some important messages that you're learning to discern, learning to figure out and trust what feels right. Now, this Saturn in Aries is also supporting you in building a new life foundation and the structures that align with a new dream, a new chapter, a new way of existing in the world. Saturn in Aries brings our attention to accountability, maturity, responsibilities, and wants you to verify what is real, what is solid, what is me. And the Saturn in Aries is also showing you what is not you and asking for greater boundaries and applications of your energy that are responsibly used. And so there is more of a seriousness when this Mercury in Cancer, very sweet, kind, empathetic, and loving, has to have a change of voice, a change of tone in his voice when he squares this Saturn in Aries. And this is where things can feel heavier, serious, and restrictive because Saturn says no. Saturn might shut down something that you thought you really wanted. And it could have been a beautiful feeling, like you felt motivated to mentally invest in something. And then Saturn in Aries says it's actually not going to work that way. This square can be a redirect. It can show you what was missing, what you need to consider, what needs to be brought in that is actually more grounded, honest, and truthful. Mercury in Cancer can be lost in the sauce, forgetting the details, just traveling through, floating through the grocery store, unaware of prices or unaware of other people's shopping carts. And Saturn in Aries is going to bring in some type of reality check that needs to be addressed, that needs to be directly seen. And this is part of Saturn's deeper wisdom. And I know we think of Saturn as being difficult and challenging and a toughie, but Saturn is essential to keep us grounded in the physical world and to make sure we're honoring our responsibilities and also seeing the boundaries of our lives for what they are. So there's going to be something here, again, around June 9th, where this square between Mercury and Saturn brings up bigger questions around what emotional truth needs to be acknowledged. Where are you being called to trust more fully in yourself? What energy have you given to others that Saturn in Aries is saying, pull it back, sister, rein it in. This is yours. This is yours to own. This is what you get to stand in. No one else gets to decide that. It will not be negotiated or compromised away. So allow this Saturn in Aries to strengthen you, to give you more of that strong spine and backbone that Saturn loves, that allows you to be very clear in your boundaries, which supports your emotional well-being. And that would be another way to look at this square here, is that Mercury in Cancer is bringing you in to deeper connection with your emotional well-being. Allow Saturn to be that guard or that gatekeeper who supports what you need so that you can be more self-contained. And so even though these are squares between two areas of your chart, again, the Cancer area of your chart is big right now, and so is the Aries area of your chart, with both Neptune and Saturn here making these squares. These are two parts of yourself that you are integrating and reconciling, that you are working with more consciously, and that you're allowing to stand in your truth and to be aware of what you're feeling without any fear, fantasy, or escapism taking over. This can be a time of enhanced psychic messages with this Mercury in Cancer, squaring the planets in Aries. It's also bringing in greater spiritual discernment around what is said, what is expressed, and why. It can also raise cognitive dissonance, where you're realizing that something that was said doesn't match up with reality. It's not factual. It's not real. It's just gossip. It's just people talking because they have nothing better to do. And this is going to be a period of time where your intuition is aligning you with more honest information. So again, these two areas of your chart are important this week. And as if that wasn't enough, we also have Venus in Cancer about to make a conjunction to Jupiter in Cancer at 25 degrees, also on June 9th. So June 9th is when Mercury in Cancer squares Saturn in Aries, and also when we have the Venus-Jupiter conjunction. This is at 25 degrees of Cancer, and what's interesting about that is that this is the same degree point where Jupiter stationed retrograde back in mid-November. And so now this Jupiter is direct, and here comes Venus exalted in Cancer, along with Jupiter exalted in Cancer. This is a feel-good energy where you might have a sense that your cup runneth over and that something that was delayed or didn't happen in November is coming back around. Now, I realize that's like about 7 months ago, so you might have to take a beat to think about what was going on in your life back in November. But there's something here that is now meant to flourish, blossom, and grow. Again, this is one of the higher expressions of Cancer energy, where there's a feeling that drives the growth and expansion. It could even feel intuitively guided. There could be a psychic download or messages coming through that are showing you what is ready to be expanded in a whole new way. This conjunction is often seen as one of the best, most abundant manifestation energies of the year. And this would be happening in your chart where you have 25 degrees of Cancer. And it's where you've had to realign your belief systems with a new creation that isn't connected to the past. Now, the past could be the past year, the past 2 years, it could be 20 years ago. But Cancer stirs up where you've come from. What has emotionally shaped you? What has left its emotional imprints? How you have learned to feel safe, trusting, and clear in your needs and in yourself. And if that growth hasn't happened, the Cancer energy can be stuck in old memories, stuck in the past, and afraid of repeating cycles if you haven't moved through something. So since that Jupiter went retrograde in November, maybe you've been emotionally clearing out even more that you didn't realize was there. And there's more that has come up and transpired that you've had to emotionally process and get to the heart of what it was for you, what it felt like for you, what it was about. But the retrograde of Jupiter in Cancer was even more sensitive and triggering because if you'll recall, Jupiter in Cancer was squaring that Chiron in Aries. So it felt more personal and more significant because of how it required you to do even more healing work than you anticipated. So this is essentially a turning point in an emotional healing journey that you didn't know you signed up for, but something has been beautifully understood, at least in the higher realms, because I'm seeing that at least for so many of you who listen to this podcast, you are emotionally advanced people. You have a sense of what is in your energy, what you've been working through, healing, learning through, growing through. Oh my God, you're so over it, right? And so there's a shifting of the energy here because I'm seeing a wheel of fortune spinning. I'm also seeing that here comes Venus, where she's going to feel the bountiful growth that Jupiter has been moving through. And Venus is receiving something precious because of the Jupiter growth that's been required. It's interesting because I'm seeing this as a locket on a necklace, the kind that you open up and there's a picture and the picture is sepia toned and there's faces on it, whether it's a family picture or two lovers or two partners. It almost looks ancient. So maybe this is related to a generational story, to your ancestors, to something hidden in your lineage. It could be something from the past, like past lives that are running concurrently now as parallel lives. This could even be a karmic reward cycle where something is revealed or comes forward that was previously thought to be hidden or lost. And that is one of the themes here of these energies in Cancer, is that something's going to come to the forefront that could be a joyful surprise and development, something that connects to the heart, love, feel good feelings. And because it's happening at the same time as this Mercury in Cancer squares Saturn in Aries, you could be questioning it. You could have things you're trying to figure out. Maybe you're wanting to put together some details. There could be a new story or a hidden story that you're looking to understand and acknowledge. So all of this is happening around June 9th. And it's a highly receptive energy. That's a beautiful day to ensure you're connected with your guides, your angels, ascended masters, perhaps your spirit council, whatever other worldly support system you connect with. This is another way to use this energy because that Cancer expression wants to be supportive, wants to give, wants to offer as a form of connecting from the heart. And so this is a beautiful day to do so, whether that is simply going through your daily routine with greater connection to your heart, greater happiness, greater joy to share and spread in your immediate environment. Or perhaps there's something here that you want to give or offer and the energy just supports it and it feels aligned. Now, as both Venus and Jupiter in Cancer move ahead to the final degree points in Cancer, they're going to be squaring Chiron. Now, Chiron is at 29 degrees of Aries, and Venus is going to make a square to Chiron that can clear out the past, that can support you in letting go of what was or where you've been, and to set yourself free, especially as Venus moves into Leo on June 13th. So that Chiron in Aries square is still present, but it doesn't feel as big. It doesn't feel like it's leaving a mark. It feels like it's a time of completion and letting go, since the planets are at or will be at 29 degrees of the signs. Now, Jupiter actually won't square that Chiron until July 1st, when they're both in new signs. July 1st is when Jupiter will be in Leo and Chiron will be in Taurus, and they will have their third and final square. So we'll talk about that when we get closer to it. But just so you know, you might sense what has changed in you, what has healed, what has shifted, what has permanently altered your self-identity and your self-concept. And also this Cancer energy wants you to feel good about that, wants you to feel very self-loving and more self-confident in what you've learned through your own emotional process. So the sun travels through Gemini this week, and in previous weeks we discussed how it was a big start to Gemini season, as that sun in Gemini moved across Sedna, the Pleiadian points, and Uranus, all in Gemini, activating higher consciousness and bigger stories for us to be aware of. Now, I did do a podcast for you on Monday discussing how that Uranus and Gemini will be squaring the nodes of fate throughout June and into July. This is going to bring about big innovations, startling advancements, more technologies entering into our Gemini areas of life. This is also going to be directly impacting how we think and process information and the rate of speed in how we do so. So there's going to be even faster ways of speaking, communicating, and interacting. And that, of course, continues as the sun moves through Gemini. The sun being the light, warmth, and consciousness that is being expanded, also bringing our attention to how mindful we're being with our words, communications, and thought process. The sun in Gemini is a beautiful time to assess how you're communicating, what you're reading and taking in, the questions you're asking, how you listen, how you understand what's going on around you. You might even notice where your mind goes, what your mind focuses on, and what you're naturally drawn to. This can certainly be what's showing up in your algorithm, because of how your algorithm is directly connected to not only what you are reading, searching, and Googling, but nowadays the algorithm, especially on your phone and computer, is connected to all social media platforms, to other websites you're using. It's reading what you're researching and what you're looking to buy. There's a lot of metadata that is being used and passed on. And then you bring into consideration how our smart devices in your home are all talking to each other, are all communicating across these bandwidths and frequencies that the human eye doesn't see and the human ear doesn't hear. So there's all these connections happening all around us all the time that we're not even aware of. And these are definitely a part of the new technologies that are infiltrating our everyday lives and our daily worlds. And so because there is so much swirling around, there can be a lot of misinformation. And Gemini is a good time to clear that up and to communicate what is factual and real, so that the false stories and one-sided narratives do not take over, as they tend to do. And so I'm going to discuss a little bit about my personal world, my personal life here, as there is a lot of support in setting the record straight and clearing up gossip and speculation. Now, in a previous episode, I mentioned that I'm single, and that is true. And I happen to have had the beautiful opportunities to connect with many people. I've met so many great people in the last number of years, and especially since my divorce 6 years ago. And relationship, marriage, partnership, commitment is one of the most important things to me. I keep it high on a high shelf that not everyone can access. And there have been stories circulating about someone that I know that I've been in connection with. And for me, that connection peaked in 2023. This is someone I've never met. in person. I don't follow them on social media. They were a long distance pen pal, very sporadic connection, but nothing came from it. And I think it's so cool to cross paths with people you would never meet in daily life and just get to know them a little bit and be open to new people in your lives. It's part of the age of Aquarius energies. It's part of Pluto in Aquarius, as well as these strong Gemini energies, that there can be a lot of connections and conversations that are had, information that's exchanged, a lot going on. But if it's never real, if it's never someone you connect with in the physical, if you never meet them, what can come from it? Not much, at least in my world, because I live a very practical, grounded life. And so when your worlds don't cross, when they don't intersect, that's okay. That can just be a neutral thing. It doesn't have to be some big story, but it's been created into more than it is. Again, for me, this is someone where the connection peaked in 2023. And so I see it as teenagers gossip and make assumptions, making a mountain out of a molehill, misinterpreting things on social media. I mean, teenagers use social media to communicate, and you should not outsource your self-worth or self-esteem to social media posts, especially if you think it pertains to someone else. Because are they talking to you or 5 other people? Adults communicate one-on-one with mature communication style, asking questions, mutual conversations that ultimately establish trust, common interest, shared values. And all of that is built in the third space, which is a relationship. That's the third space where both people show up to contribute and energize the connection. And you have a third space with your friends, your partners, your coworkers, your boss. Any person you relate to, you establish that third space, which becomes the relationship. And that's where the connection is built, trust is earned, and more is developed together. And that third space is fluid and open, right? Like you show up, they show up. You both need room to grow. You both need time apart to be in your own energy. Then you return and catch up during dinner or see how your day went. So the third space is meant to be an alive place of ongoing connection, contribution, fun, openness, sharing. That third space is meant to be really beautiful, but it can only be created and sustained by both parties choosing it. And so even when we talk about choosing someone, choosing a friendship, choosing a partner, choosing anyone in your life, what you're choosing is that third space that you're co-creating together. And one of the best ways for that space to grow and develop is to have experiences and conversations with them in different environments, different topics, different areas of life, so that you start to see more of the full picture of who they are and they see more of the full picture of who you are. And you can only do that when each person chooses to do so. And over time, it shows you what are the strong, solid connections? Who are the real ones for you? Who are the people that you turn to and you go to who will always be there for you in that third space? And this is also where we have different connection styles, attachment styles. This is where all of us shows up the more that you're open and vulnerable and truthful about who you are, what you've been through, what matters to you, what your values are, all of that good stuff that makes you who you are. Like that's the best stuff. But that can only happen by communicating and showing up. And we each do that in our own way, whether consciously or unconsciously. And there's fears that can come up with that, but that's part of being human. That's also why it has to be mutual and a priority and a joint investment. Because I'm the kind of girl where when it's not equal, I'm gone. I don't hang around vacant lots. I don't waste my time, and I can read it quickly. I can understand things very quickly, as I know many of you can as well. And the more that you do so, you then attract in those who are the right match, who have the same values or the same shared interests, people who are at the same frequency, who get you and who want to be creating that third space with you. Because again, you have to choose it. And so part of what's been interesting for me is that I'm really detached from gossip and untruths. There seem to be one-sided narratives that involve me, but I'm not connected to those realities. That is not my world. That is not my focus. I'm like, what is going on here? This has nothing to do with how I go about my life. And then people are left to speculate, gossip, and create these false stories that are not based in reality. And so I've had some interesting thoughts about this because I've wondered, do people like being brainwashed and manipulated? And I know that sounds harsh, but stay with me. I don't mean that as a harsh thing, but I mean, really, do people like that? Do they like being brainwashed? Because the Kool-Aid factory doesn't seem to be going out of business anytime soon. People are drinking the Kool-Aid. And I feel like, unfortunately, for some people, the answer is yes. And the reason why people like to just receive gossip and false information and all these manipulative stories, it's because it doesn't require them to be vulnerable and it doesn't require them to be courageous. You can just be in a comfort zone, a passive bystander who just believes or takes in what is shared. And if we were to zoom out and look at this across the span of human history, how does that play out? How does that tend to course correct? So we have to be more active communicators. We have to be courageous enough to ask the tough questions, to validate information. Is this factual? Is this truthful? Have you even asked the other person their side of the story? And why are you so invested in a one-sided narrative? Because it's often the people making the most noise that should be questioned. And they're the ones wanting to distract you from questioning or thinking for yourselves. They're the ones who have a lot to hide. Those legal bills add up. There's a lot of legal issues going on behind the scene. Don't ask about that. Don't bring that up. There's a lot of damaged people who are heartless, who want you to believe a certain narrative to get their own fulfillment, to get their own validation and needs met. I mean, you've got to think it through at the level of the human psyche, right? So this is something that is quite prominent right now, whether that is in your community, your world, your family, maybe just things you're observing and sensing. We've got to be better communicators. We've got to be mindful of what are the intentions here? What's really going on behind the scenes? What is trying to be hidden? Why are some people so obsessed? Obsession is not normal. And to quote my son's former first grade teacher, behavior is communication. How people behave and how they act is communicating something. And so the more aware we are of that, the more keen we are to those behaviors and actions, the more you're going to see things that could be really uncomfortable at first, but that's part of the courage. It takes courage to be uncomfortable and to realize you got it wrong. You got the story wrong. You're missing a lot of information. You're missing a lot of facts. In fact, I was thinking I might be sending some people some cookbooks because you're going to need a lot of new recipes for all that egg on your face. I see a lot of home-baked frittatas in your future because you're operating off of one-sided narratives and the truth is always going to come out. Wrestling with the truth is going to be a losing match. So let me set the record straight about a few other things that are nobody's business, but let me just state it anyways. I've never had any work done. I don't even like Band-Aids. I don't want anything touching my skin, okay? I'm not the kind of person who would ever willingly do something with a needle. I had to have an epidural when I was giving birth to my son, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to pass out from the epidural. Anyways, I'm not that girl. I'm not that person. I put collagen powder in my coffee, and I take a lot of vitamins. In fact, that's one thing my friends and I talk about. How many vitamins are you taking? What do you take? Why? You get older, you talk about these things. I actually hate shopping. I'm not a shopper. You know how sometimes you just need something, so you have to go find it or look online. But I actually prefer experiences more than stuff. We were on vacation last week and we went by one of those high-end shopping centers. And I was like, no, thank you. I don't even need to go in there for the AC. Let's just keep going. So it's important to know your values, not only what's worth your time, but your money and your energy and what it brings you in return, where you feel the energy rise, where you feel peace and joy because of what you spend money on and what you choose to invest in. And then there's this gossip about me being mysterious and a hermit and always by myself. Let me tell you, I'm never by myself. I rarely have a day to myself. I am a hardworking single mom raising a son. I have a lot of friends that I see, I have dinner with, I hang out with, I go to visit. And I might be mysterious because I don't post my life on social media. I don't think that's healthy. I don't think everyone should have access to everything about you. So I suppose we have a full circle moment here coming together that my boundaries are clear and evident, and how they are misinterpreted is not my problem, is not on me. It's on whomever is misinterpreting this information and creating outlandish stories about who I am or who they think I am. You could say not only is it obsessive, but it's diabolical, it's unhealthy, mentally unstable. And I'm proud of my boundaries. My boundaries are going to continue. And I hope yours do too, whatever that looks like for you. So for those of you who are receiving cookbooks from me, enjoy the recipes as a way to use all that egg on your face. The problem with psychopaths is that they don't leave you alone. And all their cruel, heartless actions only last as long as people are willing to drink the Kool-Aid. Now, as we move into July, these energies are going to be powerfully shifting because we're going to be having, as I mentioned, 4 outer planets all syncing up with all new levels of creation and life force. There's going to be some big changes in the matrix in July, as well as some big shifts in the higher realms. And so just note that if you're going through spiritual attacks, one-sided narratives, or extreme gaslighting, big changes are ahead. Gaslighting is only done by people who are guilty. Character defamation is only done by narcissists. Public attacks are done by heartless, damaged people. And on Earth, everyone gets their own free will. They get to choose what they're going to put their energy towards. So you choose what you're putting your energy towards, and you expand it, sister. You get bigger, you get stronger, you get more confident, you get more powerful. That's what you're choosing. That is your path, and it's going to pay off. It's going to take you even further because you're operating with the higher frequencies of the cosmos, working with universal spiritual laws and the higher intelligence that's available to us. This is an exciting time to be ascending. This is a brilliant time to see things for what they are. So choose powerfully and know that the universe is right there with you. The universe has heard your prayers, your dreams, your requests. The universe has not forgotten what you're ready for next. The universe knows your heart, and the universe knows the most beautiful divine timing of it all to come together for you based on the timeline you're in now. So this is a time to continue to power up and gain strength, to be more awesome, and to be energized around what's to come, because July is going to be a very energizing month. You might be feeling that now as we move through Gemini season, but no, there is a lot going on here that's going to be worth it. And one more thing before I sign off, since in true Gemini style, I just keep talking, I want to say thank you to every single beautiful soul who showed up to the Crystal Pyramid experience in Portland this past weekend. It was wonderful to say hello and hug all of you and to meet you in person. I also want to say a very sincere thank you to Robin and Colleen Benelli of Reiki Lifestyle. I've been on their podcast a number of times through the years, and it was wonderful to meet them in person and to share a great dinner together and to catch up. I'm grateful for all of their gifts. I also want to thank Jana and Jamie, who flew from Hawaii just to be at this event and to help out. Also, Jenny Lee, who flew in from Colorado Springs. Some people flew in from Wisconsin and a few other locations just to be there in Portland. And I really hope you enjoyed what we co-created and what we shared in that space. I mean, the energies were just out of this world. And this is what we need more than ever. We need these powerful co-creation spaces. So thank you for being there in Portland. I'm looking forward to the next 4 cities that are coming up: Boston, Orlando, Charlotte, and Seattle. There are still some tickets available for each of these cities. Boston and Charlotte are almost sold out, but there are tickets. So if you can attend, if you can join us in this space, I would love to meet you, say hello, and of course, give you even more ways of understanding your energy and your astrology chart as we move into a new cycle. This is a very evolutionary time, and it's time for us to continue to evolve our understanding of astrology and ourselves. I'll put the link below the podcast here if you want to be there for one of the Crystal Pyramid Experience workshops. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to our next podcast coming up every Monday and Wednesday. I hope this week ahead brings you some beautiful messages, and that Venus and Jupiter also brings about some beautiful manifestations and gifts. Take good care, friends, and I'll see you back here soon. Thank you.